Two men, same office, same job title, same Friday. They print the exact same paycheck, walk out the same door, and 25 years later, they are not living anything close to the same life. Same salary, same start, opposite endings. And the strange part is, nobody can point to the day it went wrong, because the day it went wrong was every payday, quietly. Meet Marcus and Jay. They are made up. I am using them to show you how the math works, not to tell you who to be. But what splits them is real, and it is smaller than you would think. Here is what did not split them. Not luck, not a windfall, not one big genius move. They earned the same money for the same years. What split them was a series of small forks in the road. At each one, the same paycheck arrived, and each man made one quiet, ordinary choice about it. And I want to be clear up front. This is not about Jay being foolish or Marcus being better. Every fork Jay took is the normal default, the thing the world is basically built to nudge you toward. So this is not a story about willpower or character. It is a story about which fork, repeated for 25 years. That is the whole engine. Picture one road that splits into two. Every payday, both men stand at the same fork with the same check in hand. One fork looks boring and barely changes the week. The other fork looks like living a little right now. Neither feels dramatic in the moment. But a fork is not a one-time thing here. They hit the same fork every single month, for decades, and tiny gaps repeated that many times stop being tiny. Let me walk you through the forks, one at a time, and show you both roads with the real numbers on screen. First fork, day 1. Fork 1 is the quietest and the most powerful. It is simply, when the paycheck lands, what happens first? Marcus takes a set slice off the top before he spends $1, an illustrative $300 a month, and sends it somewhere it can grow. That 300 is just a number I picked to show the math, not a target for you. Jay does the opposite. He pays everyone else first, his lifestyle first, and saves whatever happens to be left, which by the end of the month is usually close to nothing. This is the most common fork there is. The personal saving rate in the US has recently sat in low single digits, so Jay is not unusual, he is the default. Hold on to Marcus's $300 a month. We will follow it the whole way and total it at the end. For now, just know the fork is set. Next fork. Fork 2 costs nothing and almost nobody notices it. It is just which account your money sits in while it waits. Both men keep an emergency cushion in cash, which is smart. Say each one has $10,000 sitting there for 5 years, untouched. Jay leaves his in a big bank savings account at the national average rate, which right now is just 0.38%, according to the FDIC. Marcus puts his in a high-yield savings account, which is the same kind of account with a much higher rate, around 4% at the time of this recording, per bank rate. Let me show the gap with the assumptions on screen. Nothing hidden. $10,000, 5 years, no new deposits, one at 0.38% and one at 4%. APY just means the yearly rate including its own compounding. Jay's grows to about $10,191. Marcus's grows to about $12,167. Same money, same 5 years, same safety, and the only difference is the fork, worth close to $2,000. That is the cheapest fork in the whole story, and Jay walked past it without ever seeing it. Next fork is the one that hurts. Fork 3 is the one that quietly costs the most, because here the math runs backward, against you. After a good month, both men have a little balance left on a credit card. Marcus pays his off in full. Jay carries his, just rolls it forward, like most people do. Here is why that is so expensive. The average credit card APR is around 21.5% on balances charged interest, according to Federal Reserve data from early 2026. APR just means the yearly interest rate on what you owe. At around 21.5%, the part Jay does not pay off grows on top of itself every single month. And the average cardholder balance is around $6,500 per Experian and LendingTree. On that balance, at that rate, the interest alone runs about $1,400 a year if it just sits there. Compounding is the same engine that builds Marcus's money. On Jay's card, that exact engine is pointed in reverse, pulling money out of his year instead of adding to it. Same paycheck, same purchases, one fork. Marcus owes nothing, and Jay quietly pays a fee to exist. Now the first big payoff. Let me show you what Fork 1 alone is done by now, with every assumption on the screen. Marcus is $300 a month, growing at a hypothetical 7% a year for 25 years. That 7% is just an assumption to make the math visible. It is not a prediction and not a promise. And the $300 a month is the illustrative number we picked, not a sourced figure. Under those assumptions, Marcus's $300 a month grows to about $243,000 over 25 years. He put in about $90,000 of his own money, and the rest, about $153,000, is growth. Same job as Jay. Same paycheck as Jay. The only difference so far is that Marcus took a slice off the top first, every time. That is what the numbers show. And Jay, with the identical capacity to do that, spent it and carried a balance, so from that same money he kept close to nothing. The income was never the variable. If watching the same paycheck split like that is useful, consider subscribing. I publish one of these a week, plain and fully sourced, calm, and no hype. Because we are only halfway through the forks, and the next few are the ones almost everyone takes without noticing. Back to the road. Fork 4 is the one parked in the driveway. Both men need to get to work, so both get a car. Jay buys new and takes the average payment, which is around $767 a month, according to Experian data from late 2025. That is a real average, on screen. Marcus buys a reliable used car, keeps the payment small, and plans to drive it for years after it is paid off. Here's the part that stings about Jay's fork. A new car typically loses about 16% of its value in the first year, and over half, roughly 55%, within 5 years, per Experian. So Jay is making a large monthly payment on something that is shrinking in value the whole time he pays for it. This is not about never buying a car, it is about seeing the full cost. Picture Marcus redirecting just part of that gap, an illustrative $200 a month, at the same hypothetical 7%, for 10 years. Again, the 200 is an illustration, and the 7% is an assumption, not a prediction. Under those assumptions, that $200 a month grows to about $35,000 over 10 years, on about $24,000 set aside. That is what the numbers show. Next fork hides in plain sight. Fork 5 is the smallest per month and the easiest to miss. It is the stack of subscriptions that quietly renew whether you use them or not. This is not about shaming a streaming service or a coffee. It is just the math of recurring charges that left your account on a schedule you forgot you set. Here is the number that gets people. In a 2022 survey by C&R Research, people estimated they spent about $86 a month on subscriptions. Their actual spending was about $219 a month, roughly $133 more than they thought, every month, on autopilot. Jay is the person who never checks. Marcus does a quick audit and cancels what he does not use. The problem was never the $133 itself. It is that it was invisible. So picture Marcus redirecting that exact $133 a month at the same hypothetical 7% for 10 years. Under those assumptions, that $133 a month grows to about $23,000 over 10 years, on about 16,000 of redirected subscriptions. The $133 here comes straight from that survey gap. Next fork is the safety net. Fork 6 is the one you only feel on a bad day, when the car breaks or the bill surprises you. It is whether there is a cushion of cash sitting ready. Marcus built a small emergency fund early, so when something breaks, he pays for it and moves on. Jay never quite got around to it, so when something breaks, it goes on the card we already talked about. Here is how common Jay's side is. According to the Federal Reserve's 2025 report, 63% of adults would cover a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent. Flip that around, and roughly 1 in 3 would have to cover that small, common expense another way, like borrowing or carrying it. To be precise, the Fed is measuring the method people would use, not whether they can afford it. So a single rough month sends Marcus to his cushion and sends Jay back onto a 21.5% card. Same event, 2 forks, and one of them quietly compounds the damage. Last fork. Fork 7 sits underneath all the others. It is simply whether you have a system so you actually know where your money is going. Marcus is not a budgeting genius, he just has a simple system. So every dollar has a job before it arrives. Jay budgets in his head, which means he does not really budget at all. This fork is incredibly common. About 1 in 7 Americans, roughly 14%, keep no budget at all, according to a Debt.com survey from 2025. And the same kind of research finds about 69% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. The thread is the same, no clear picture of the money. Without a system, every other fork quietly defaults to Jay's side, because the leaks all grow best in the dark. A system is just turning the lights on. That is the last fork. So step back to where the two roads end, 25 years on, and let me total it honestly with the assumptions stated. From fork 1 alone, Marcus's $300 a month at a hypothetical 7% grew to about $243,000, about $90,000 of it his own money, and about $153,000 of it growth. That number is illustrative, not a promise. Jay had the exact same capacity. But across the same forks, he spent the slice, carried the balance, paid the interest, and let the leaks run, so from that same money he kept close to nothing. I am not going to invent a single dollar figure for Jay, because that part depends on a life I cannot measure. The honest contrast is enough. One man's ordinary dollars compounded into something, the other man's compounded into a fee. And remember, the rate is a hypothetical, the salary and the slices were illustrations, and none of this is a prediction of what anyone will actually have. It is just how the arithmetic works when you point it forward. Here is the thing the whole story keeps proving. Marcus and Jay earned the same money for the same years at the same desk. Not one fork between them was a dramatic decision. Each one was small, normal, and the kind of thing nobody flags until you draw it out over 25 years. Which means it was never the income that decided it. It was the forks, taken the same way, again and again, until the gap stopped being small. And the quiet good news inside that is, a fork is a choice you get to make again next payday. The road is not fixed, the next fork is always open. Before you click away, do one thing. Of the 7 forks, pick the single one that stung the most while you watched. That is almost always the place to start. Not all 7 at once. Just that one on your very next payday. One fork, chosen differently, is how the whole road slowly starts to bend. That is the whole point of this channel. We take one money fork at a time and make it clear enough to actually act on. And if watching the math split 2 identical paychecks helped it finally make sense, subscribe so the next one finds you. One clear money idea a week, always sourced, never hype. Quick recap. 2 made-up men, same salary, same start, and 7 quiet forks that slowly built 2 opposite lives. None of this was advice about what to buy. The characters were illustrations, and none of the projections were predictions. It is just how the numbers work, so you can see the forks for yourself. So look at your own next payday as a fork, pick the one that stung the most here, and choose it differently this once. Take care of your future self, and I will see you in the next one.